What economic reforms is Tinubu's administration talking about? This is a reformatting to slavery. It is a reformatting to slavery, and the problem that most people or commentators are talking about is that the subsidy that was being removed had a production element in it. The multiplying effect on our production was ignored. That $10 billion that they talk that they have saved, in the end, they have wasted about $100 billion. Our GDP has fallen to 180 billion. Buhari left 363 billion. Jonathan left 574 billion. So we are regressing. In fact, our per capita income is lower than what it was at independence. We had about $1,800 per head at independence. Now we have only $800 per head. We are the 12th poorest country in the world. You see, sometimes it's not even corruption that is a problem, it's ignorance. Because these neoliberal economic policies that have been adopted since 1978, which started with the removal of education subsidies, which destroyed our university education, has gone on false premises. There was this Professor Dayton, Augustus, a Nobel Prize laureate of economics, who came back and realized that what they have been preaching for the last 40 years has been wrong. We Africans who took the IMF have sown ourselves in poverty, whereas in Asia that rejected it, they have increased. There is no way. And when we talk, they say, "Oh, you're being bitter." How are we being bitter when our per capita income has gone from 2,585 USD to now 800 in 10 years later? How and what was 100 trillion naira used for? Buhari left 87 trillion in debt. Tinubu has pushed it to 187 trillion in debt. So that's an increase of 100 trillion in 2 years. And yet you say you are saving. Saving what? What are we doing? You see, and this is not an attack on Tinubu's administration, it's an attack on the whole political class because they are apathetic to the masses. When you devalue the currency, what you do to the masses is that you are cutting their wages. Our real wages has fallen to peanuts. And when you now say you have you're increasing minimum wage, that only affects 4.1% of the civil service. You say, "Oh, we gave 5 million families food." But within 2 years, 35 to 50 million people have fallen into poverty, for crying out loud. And yet there's no remorse. And there's this ideological stubbornness that what we are doing, no, what you're doing can never ever work. And you see, what we initially had with Chief Awolowo, who came during the period of welfareism, which in Yoruba translates to Afenifere, was free education, free health, push for full employment, and rural diversification. We need to move, it's still the same template, because the point is this: if we are a Commonwealth and we are paying taxes and we are contributing, the government should be able to use that whole pot to provide services. That's a social contract. All this oil that you're taking, we could have been doing it ourselves. We don't need the government. If you cannot provide some certain things. And when we're talking about development, we say, "Oh, no." The only way we're going to develop are two ways: the consumption and the production sector. At the consumption sector, you have housing. India, China, they build 20,000 houses a day. This government said they wanted to build 20,000 houses for the whole of a year, 2025. And we have 30 million homeless. So that's at the heart of our consumer market. We lack houses, because it's houses. It's from houses you're going to have chairs, you're going to have television, you're going to have all those things. Until you have that, so the core of the housing has to be developed. Of the consumer market has to be developed. Then, when you look at production, the most important thing that we need is heavy manufacturing, electrics, chemicals. If you add all those up now, they are less than 1.5 of they contribute less than 1.5 of our GDP. This has to be increased tenfold. And the way we need is that when you look at China, when you look at India, they build 15 kilometers of railway every day. In fact, our whole railway length of about 4,000 could be built in a year with that. What we have been building for 100 years could be built in only 1 year. And until we get ourselves up, we will say, we will not have the inputs. America in 1826, all the way down to 1870, they were building 5 kilometers, a minimum of 5 kilometers of railway every day. So Nigeria has to come to that. If you want to judge your policies, it has to be how many houses are you building a day? How many railway lines are you extending? Every local government, every one of the 774 local governments should have a railway station. And it's not just about transportation alone. Like, we realize that railways actually came about from agriculture, because the United States, where cotton was booming, they needed to move their products from the farms to the ports. Now, what we now have is that we have developed agriculture to a point. In fact, I think we are number 5 in the world when we talk of value-added agriculture. But we are losing 40% of our output because we do not have storage, we do not have haulage. All that can only be made through railways. When railways will provide all that, and we will develop our rural areas. As of now, 75% in the rural areas are poor. Now, if you develop railways, then you realize that there are byproducts in electrical industry. You realize that in chemicals, wiring, metals, iron making, all those sectors will grow from railway. And then you have better jobs. Each station will have shops, there will be people who will be repairing these things, the glass, the plastics. That is how you develop a country. Not try and balance and say, we're going to let our currency float. When you let the currency float, you are letting people's life float away. 7 million businesses have collapsed in 2 years. And yet some people are coming out trying to sell propaganda that is all good. No, it's not all good. People are starving. About 30 million people are going to starve this year. What are we going to do instead of quoting and trying to balance the exchange rate? Yes, we need to balance that. But we know, regardless, because you say there's not enough money, but you've taken 100 trillion debt, which could be used to develop those two sectors, but we have nothing to show for it. And this is the problem that we have, that unless we free our minds from these neoliberal economic policies which came from 1978, because from 1940s, when you had the New Deal in America, where they built all those houses that you see in America and London and co, they were built in the 50s. It was the greatest transfer of wealth in hundreds of years. That is what we need. And don't let somebody tell you that, we need this money, we need this export. There is what we call the modern monetary theory. They know that. That's how they took 33 trillion. But the point is, they didn't use it for how it should be used. It was still treated away into importing cars, for government importing. All government establishments should use only Nigerian-made cars. Because if you look at that, our import bill, we had about 30% of it going to fuel imports. They have 20% going to cars. Now, what this government should have done was to wait for the refinery to go instead of to go into operation. Dangote is the refinery, because we know that those government refineries, they're just money wells and you just pour money into. He should have waited for the Dangote refinery before removing those subsidies, and you don't even have to remove those subsidies. You subsidize from our own oil by selling it to them at a cheaper rate for the people. You're not doing us favors. Stop looking at us like, oh, those slaves don't need to use petrol, they can walk. No, we use it for business. And that is why we have lost $180 billion within 2 years because of these senseless economic policies, economic reforms. So you are reformatting us to slavery. Because slavery is about economics, and that is what is happening to us now. People are starving.